Shel. I'm Japanese runner. I play Mother to any percent category. This category can use glitch without debug room. I can't speak English well, so Daniel RGT commentator. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much for doing this run.
Okay.
If you, I'm gonna give you a countdown now, and then we can start the run. Okay?
Okay.
So.
So please wait. This category's timer start is sorry. I use switch. A start. So decided name. Last. Okay. Yes. I chose yes. Timer start.
Okay. So.
Okay.
I'll give a countdown.
Okay. Thank you.
3, 2, 1,
go.
One. All right. So. This is Mother 2 any percent. You're gonna see Shel here naming everybody one character of text.
Yes. So begin start RNG one. So first I use move one castle.
Yeah. And so the reason for this is because every single time the character is printed on the screen, RNG advances. So this is very similar to how Earthbound handles RNG. Mother 2 handles it somewhat similarly. There are some differences, but the differences we'll be seeing won't really necessarily manifest as well. Okay, I can edit the time. I was about 20 seconds off, so let's just say we'll do this. Something like that. I was about 20 seconds off or so. So roughly the time is being started now. So you're going to be seeing Shel here be doing some RNG manipulation. Their movement has to be very particular, and they need to not open and close the menu when they don't intend to. You'll see some of it on purpose moving forward. That's all been accounted for and been routed out. Previously, when the Earthbound runners would attempt Mother 2, we tried to do RNG manip the same exact way we had done on Earthbound, and we found it wasn't working very consistently for us. And part of that has to do with the fact that Mother 2's text, obviously it being Japanese characters, is a lot faster, but just in general, the game loads text much, much faster. You'll see the text just speed by, and then also the menuing in Mother 2 is instantaneous, as opposed to Earthbound, which when you open a menu, like if you open your inventory, the more items in your inventory in Earthbound, the longer it takes to load that inventory. In Mother 2, there's basically nothing like that. So being able to do inputs very, very quickly is really, really important for making sure your times are very fast in Mother 2, because it's like instant response time. Yeah, and we have Ilaya in the chat as well. They're a Japanese runner who speaks decently good English, and they've been part of the Japanese community coming together and figuring out how the Mother 2 RNG manipulation works. And so now we have a route in Mother 2 any percent that's very similar to what we see in Earthbound, except that since the text moves much faster and the inputting is just that much more responsive, it just saves about five or so minutes.
Okay, maybe light RNG.
Okay, so there might be some light RNG. There's RNG manip that is supposed to be happening here. Ideally, we're supposed to be skipping Starman. And the main thing that we need to be doing is getting into. Usually, we manipulate a crow fight before we get to the top of the hill. and then we get through that crow fight. We take a little bit of damage, and then we'll set up a fight to try and skip the Starman fight. And this is important for keeping our stats where they need to be. If there's light RNG, I'm assuming Shel has backups and stuff built around that will still make sure that the manipulation later on works. That if it maybe isn't as necessarily important to nail every part of this manip, just at least getting enough of it. And the nice part here is that once you pick up that phone, the game does save. So worst case, you can create a backup based on that. So we see here, Shel is just going to be moving, and you see them opening and closing that menu there. That's to advance the RNG. And here we see a crow. And we're just going to get into a regular blue swirl fight. This is part of the manipulation, I'm assuming. Normally, you would try and get into a red swirl, but if the manip routing doesn't really make that convenient, then it's not really worth it. So you just take the fact that the fight starts exactly as normal. That item that dropped there is a cookie. The crow has an extremely high chance for dropping a cookie. And when you're doing manipulation, you manipulate drops as well, generally. Because drops are determined right at the start of the battle. This snake is exactly what we want to see. That's why Shel is so relieved to see it. We pull the snake forward like that so that after we talk to Picky, and then get this buzz, the snake is still on screen. It's 100% drop on. Is it just the hill crow that's 100% drop, or is it just actually 100% across the board? Because I know the shack fight crow doesn't necessarily drop the cookie 100%, but that's a different category. We're not even going to see that crow. So the purpose of the snake here and that crow fight, we're going to be death warping off of this snake. I mentioned earlier that the game saves when you talk to Phone Dad there. And we're going to be using that to our advantage, because when you die in this game and then choose to continue your save, all the progress you made retains itself. And allows you to just start from wherever you last saved. And the last place that the game has saved us is inside your house, which is conveniently right past where Starman Jr. is.
I mistake. I stop.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Okay. Later I use recovery, so in Onet Hotel save.
Mm-hmm.
So I use recovery route.
Yeah. So normally the route is started from this beginning console on section to the naming of the player, the characters and stuff like that, and it's carried from then all the way through Onet. This next glitch we're gonna do, but because it sounds like Shel made a mistake with the manipulation, and part of that may be due to the fact that the minches here have moved in a very strange way.
So I think pressure.
Yeah, it's very difficult in a marathon to land these very difficult manipulation strats. But thankfully there is a backup, because when you reset the console, the RNG resets back to a known value. It starts at the same value every single time, which is what's really what allows us to manipulate this game in the first place. That means you can save the game and then hard reset your console, and RNG will always go back to the same spot. So Shel here is going to save in the hotel, and then reset the console, and then do a backup manipulation to help us get out of Onet here. Normally in the past, before really the Tassing community of Earthbound, runner by the name of Pirohiko, found a Sprite overload glitch. We normally had to do all of Onet, including all the bosses and stuff like that. But Pirohiko found out that you could do a Sprite overload, and that will allow us to get out of Onet quicker. So I'm going to let Shel do this here, and then I'll explain exactly how this works once we get to see it. We're going to be withdrawing some money here. This is to buy some stuff here in Tucson. We think we need at least one skip sandwich, almost for sure. And it's very possible sometimes people buy other cookies, but the cookie we got from the crow, I think, will probably be good enough. And you see here, after hitting yes or continue, whatever the equivalent is, that's when the game is actually finally saved. So you see Shel restart there.
Okay, Pirohiko is very great human. We use Pirohiko make on the skip route. So a big time cut.
Yeah, it cut like over 10 minutes off of one end. It was humongous. So if you notice that truck turned into a barricade there. Basically what happens is that the game only has so many slots available for sprites to sit in memory. And so what happens is that we are manipulating a bunch of enemies to spawn right in front of the arcade there. So that there are, I don't know if it's the same in Mother 2. In Earthbound it's 22. But it might be either the same or just slightly different in Mother 2. There's 22 slots total. And what happens is if the game tries to load a 23rd, what it does is it instead says, well, I don't have a space for that. So in order to create space for that, I am going to remove whatever was in the first slot and replace it with whatever it is you're loading at that exact time. So the thing that was in the first sprite slot was the truck, and the thing you just loaded was the barricade. So it swapped their positions in memory, which allowed us to walk through it.
Okay, I get $50. So skip sound, buy skip sound +1.
Yeah, so that guy there in the Tucson hotel, if you talk to him enough, will give you an extra $50. He just says, hey, spend it on something nice. And that will allow Shel here to buy 2 skip sandwiches as opposed to just 1. And that gives us just a little bit of added safety for these cliff skips coming up next. The first one can be done without a skip sandwich, but the second one needs a skip sandwich to complete it. So you ideally just need the one, and there is a pixel lineup you can do that can make the second skip very, very, very consistent. But having a second skip sandwich in a marathon situation also has the added benefit that even if you just use the one sandwich, maybe in Graveyard, which is a very RNG segment, you might be able to use the skip sandwich to avoid a fight. Alright, so Shel has shoved his way into the cliffs, and that will allow us to kind of walk through the edge of the cliff there. And this next one coming up requires a skip sandwich. We're looking for a very particular pixel lineup here, and very nicely done. Oh, just a little bit. They're close.
Okay.
Oh, okay. This is why you get 2.
Mistake.
This is why you get 2.
Okay, one more chance.
Should still be possible. There we go. Okay, so we're not out of the woods yet. Because of how much RNG there is in this run, right now we are not manipulating currently. There is a 5% chance that there's a spawn right at the beginning of 3 here. Thankfully they were just a little bit ahead, but not a space where they were right on top of us, which would have been the worst possible scenario. Ooh, some scary stuff.
Very danger. Very danger.
Yeah. It's very scary here. Ness is level 1 currently. He's the weakest he could possibly be. We have no defense items, so getting into a fight here is usually death. There's a pretty famous instance of when Octopuscal ran this at GDQ, where they got into a ghost fight,
no!
And they somehow made it out. Okay, so we need to make it out.
No.
Oh no, yeah. So the fly situation here, they unfortunately just moved too far. You have to kind of try and defend. You have a very low % chance to run. And And unfortunately, a death here probably means a just reset back to Onett.
Very bad luck.
Yeah. Unfortunately, RNG still plays a factor even in these heavily glitched categories. Okay, so we saved here in Tucson. So I think we still have to do the shopping again, right? Yes, okay. So we buy the 2 skip sandwiches again. We'll be attempting those again. And then just hoping for better luck, really. It was just an unfortunate situation. There was just too many enemies all over the place. There was no real safe position to go. So once again, this first one does not require a skip sandwich. And then this second one.
Okay.
All right, nicely done. We have an extra skip sandwich, so
Thank
that will
you.
help us. Once again, the graveyard's still very, very scary. We just gotta make sure we can get to it. And then once we get past the graveyard, we'll be going to play as Jeff. And another thing that kind of broke this category wide open, also discovered by Pirohiko, was the Winter's Cliff skips that we use. Which involves
Right.
Oh no, oh no.
Safe.
So scared. Those flies love to swing fast. They're very, very scary, but we made it through.
Yeah, lucky.
So the main thing you'll be seeing here in this Jeff sequence is obviously the start of the sequence, which starts in the Snowwood boarding school. Shel is going to be getting some equipment, not to equip though, but to sell, because we're going to be getting some skip sandwiches from the store, and then that will I can now start to explain kind of what was the big discovery from Pirohiko for Winters, which was the Winters cliff skips that abuses basically a rounding error that happens during character movement. So what happens is there's a rounding error that occurs based on like the calculation for how many pixels forward the party leader is going to move. And when you move in cardinal directions, that rounding error normally just, without a skip sandwich active, normally just translates into sometimes the party leader will walk forward 2 pixels instead of 1 during their like walk cycle animation. But when you have a skip sandwich activated, that all of a sudden now you are multiplying that error happening in a pretty drastic way. And so what happens is that if you tap left and left, any cardinal direction really, but in the case of what we're going to be doing, it would be left and up. If you mash those 2 directions, the rounding error happens over and over and over and over again, to the point where your subpixel position keeps getting pushed farther and farther until it updates your actual X and Y position value, and you end up on the other side of the cliff and are able to walk through it and make it through, which was a humongous time save for Winters, because normally in the past we had to ride Tessie and go through Pond Cave and do that whole sequence, but now we get through Winters, and it also lets Jeff stay at level 1, which ends up not, it saves time on level ups happening as well, which is very nice. So we saw earlier the day when Octo was doing all photos, they picked up, they had to get some extra money in order to buy more skip sandwiches. For this category, Shel won't be needing to do that. So we'll probably make a save here for safety. But we'll just be selling the things we need to get enough money to buy 2 skip sandwich deluxes. And then we'll be on our way.
Okay, a little mistake. Yes.
So ideally we don't want a dog here. We want a crow, because crow is the easiest thing to allow us to get past. And then Shel's going to be moving up into this cliff here. They're looking to get stuck. And then they're going to be mashing left and up. And it destroys your D-pad, unfortunately. And you really want you need to get through this in one sandwich, because we need one sandwich to get through to the other side, and one sandwich to get back.
Okay.
And we just barely got it. It was just far enough. The sandwich had just run out, but thankfully we were far enough into the cliff that we were able to wiggle past it, which is very, very good. And then this second cliff skip actually is not the same type of cliff skip. It's more similar to the one that we saw in Tucson. And Shel's gonna be looking for a very specific pixel lineup, and then trying to move through the cliff.
Set up. Okay.
So this is scary. Okay, nice. Very nicely done.
Yes.
If you don't get it after the lineup, it's very difficult while you're moving that quickly to sort of re-line up back with the skip sandwich deluxe. You kind of have to now you don't really have a pixel lineup you can do anymore. So the fact that the pixel lineup didn't work out quite well, but Shel got through, was still very clutch, very good. And now we save and end on this lab, and then we'll be resetting, because this is where a very long piece of RNG manipulation will be happening. It's very difficult to land, because it's not only maintaining manip through a very large section of the game, but you're also landing three stairs glitches, which will allow us to walk out of bounds. And the timing for them it's not like insanely tight, but it is it's still fairly precise. And when you're under pressure like this, it can be a little difficult. But I believe in Shel. This is one of those things that is just gets better with practice.
Yes, but I feel so practice very. I want many time. So but I feel a little peace of mind. So so on it Tucson 3, if I mistake, so very lost time.
Yeah, so the first thing that this manipulation is going to be doing is we're going to be getting into a fight with a zombie. Has to be a part of the fight in some capacity. In Earthbound, we also have a ghost that makes an appearance, but it's not technically required. The only thing that's required is a zombie, because we need a cold from the zombie. But the reason why the ghost is kind of nice to have is because you can get the ghost to possess you, and that makes a very nice visual cue with the tiny little ghost possessing you for doing the stairs glitches that we'll be doing. And the stairs glitch is what's going to allow us to walk out of bounds. So in this fight, you're going to see Shel get a cold on Ness, and then they're going to then have Paula and Jeff die. Or at the very least, have Jeff die. But it's actually for this first fight, it should be Paula and Jeff. And then we're going to run away from the fight with very little HP on Ness, but with a cold. And what that happens is that, you know, when you have a cold, you take damage in this over.
No mistake. I mistake, so choice B button.
Uh-oh. Alright, so first we need to manipulate the enemies to be there. And there they are. Ooh, yep. The B button there. So with that B button, the B button opened there, you very briefly saw Shel open the HP and just, it's like the status menu, which shows you the health points, the HP and PP of all the party members. Unfortunately, while that is open, RNG advances every single frame that is happening. So for humans, it is impossible to recover RNG at that point, because how many frames did you have it open? You know, there's no way to know. So that's like a task-only manipulation strat, would be to open and close that menu because it would have to be frame perfect. So the unfortunate part of that, we have to watch this cutscene again. This cutscene's about 3 minutes or so. Unfortunately, this cutscene does not get faster in Mother 2. There's hardly any text, so it's just the Skyrunner part.
If I mistake the 3 times, I use time roll, so switch.
Oh, I see. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So I guess I can try and talk now about the stairs glitch, because we'll be seeing it shortly. As I mentioned, Ness is going to have a cold. And when you walk in the overworld, cold is kind of like poison. And you take damage over time as you're walking around. You'll see the screen flash red. What happens there is that every time the screen flashes red while you have a cold, because a cold is a very minor sickness, you take 2 damage. So we're going to be escaping from the fight with something like 9 or 7 HP, something like that. And what's going to happen is that when you get on low enough HP, the game will alert you and say, hey, you're low HP, you should heal, or else that character is going to die. With that text box, using that text box, we're going to be interrupting the animation of walking onto stairs. So actually, you'll be able to see, you'll see the party here on these stairs shortly. If you notice, when you first walk onto stairs, the game sort of guides you onto the stairs, and you can, like, it's moving you for you. So as you walk on the stairs, you can let go of the D-pad and you will still kind of move a little bit onto the stairs. The game is sort of attaching you to the stairs. And while the game is attaching you like that, it turns off collision. And so when you interrupt that animation, the game never turns collision back on. So then we'll be able to walk out of bounds and go anywhere we want. So we have Paula die here. And these spies to get a secret herb from the zombie possessor. The secret herb is going to be used to revive Paula later on. So now Ness has a ghost and a cold. The ghost will just be nice for visual cue purposes. And the cold is going to be used to get the text box to show up as we are walking towards these stairs here. Nice.
Okay.
And then we're going to Summers. We're going to be doing another stairs glitch very quickly here. we're going to be doing it at the bottom of these stairs here. Nicely done. And so what we're going to be doing now, we're going to be walking out of bounds, and you're going to hear the music change. Shel is using this to know where they're going. And we're going to be falling down the hole in Lumine Hall to land in Lost Underworld. This is not to get any teleport or anything like that. We don't have teleport. But we need to fall down this hole to beat the game. It's one of the required story triggers we have to hit. So we set it up that we have just enough HP to get to this hole, and then when we land, we're going to be wait for a tick of damage, and then we die. And then we're going to respawn back into the 3 jail, and then we're going to be manipulating another fight to get another cold.
No, I mistake.
Oh no. Oh. So this is why this is so difficult to land. You have to land all of this.
So this use secret hub, Japanese urakanpo. Use more move. So yeah, very difficult, and I feel pressure.
Yeah, it's not easy. I've done this run in a marathon before as well. Not Mother 2, I did Earthbound. And it's very difficult under pressure. It is very precise. You have to land. He had to use secret herb with minimal inputs. Yeah, I understand. I see. Unfortunately, there's one too many inputs.
If I mistake, so I'll use time rolling switch.
Yeah, and just for marathon purposes, in the case of this manipulation, as we mentioned, it's quite hard, and you have to watch this cutscene again. So when you have to start all over from the beginning of the sequence. So we have to land those first 2 stair switches, and then we have to get to the manipulated. We have to manipulate that 3rd flight, and then get another stair switch. It's very difficult, and under pressure, it just becomes that much harder.
So I feel I don't want to use time roll as much as possible.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. I had one prepared for my marathon run as well. With this category, I think you have to. It's very difficult. This category is very difficult. I also think with how fast the menuing is in Mother 2, it makes it probably that much harder. Because with Earthbound, it takes little pauses between like the cursor, between when you load the inventory and stuff like that. So you can buffer movement a lot more. But with Mother 2, you can't really do that as well. Alright, this time for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we get Paula to die. We spy to get the secret herb. Okay, very nice on the first stairs glitch. Very nice on the second one. So once again, we'll be falling down Lumine Hall hole here. This is a required story trigger.
Okay. Okay, next time.
Alright, and then we get back to the 3 jail cell. Ooh, okay, so it looks like we dropped it again.
No, so zombie I stopped one point, so zombie move and I move right, so I fast move.
I see, I see.
Okay, I'm use time roll. Sorry.
Yeah, so we just used, yeah, just moved a little bit too early. This is just for marathon purposes, just to make sure that we stay on schedule.
Okay, sorry everyone, I use time roll.
It's okay. So we'll be doing one more stairs glitch here. And even though it looks like you barely weren't really on the stairs, you just made it onto the stairs. And now, after all that, we're going to be heading to Magicant. And the reason we have to go to Magicant isn't for all the free experience, but we do have to beat Ness's Nightmare in order to make sure that we can beat the game. That is the other required story trigger we have to do.
Yeah.
And the closest way to get to Magicant is through the Flying Man house. Remember, this is Mother 2, so you might notice instantly the big difference between Mother 2 and Earthbound. And that is that Ness has no clothes on.
No!
Yeah, and we're still RNG
No, okay,
manipulating.
okay, start in Magicant. Okay, no.
Sounds like we had another drop. This is still very, very difficult. There's a lot of enemies that are off screen here. And yeah, it looks like there's an extra input there. It looks like Shel, I think, said what, you're gonna go back to the Flying Man house?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the beginning
Okay.
movement there.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to make sure you don't get caught on that little gravestone there. Once again, we apologize for the sort of switch time rewind feature. This is just to make sure we stay in line with the estimate, so pardon our dust, everybody.
Yeah, very, very useful.
Yeah, This is very difficult manipulation.
Yeah, so
and when you drop it, you have to restart from the very beginning. So it's like at this point, it's like a 7-minute time loss, something crazy like that.
I practice speedrun, so I use Switch.
Yeah, and the Switch is actually pretty good for speedrunning Earthbound. It emulates lag a lot better than the console version does. And because of this sort of scarcity of Earthbound and Mother 2, well, not Mother 2, but Earthbound in particular, we do allow Switch, Virtual Consoles, stuff like that on the leaderboards. And it's not like a separate leaderboard or anything like that. So there's definitely probably a best version to run on. Switch runs the lag a little bit better, but unfortunately it runs at a slightly slower frame rate. So part of that plays into it. So you gain some time from lag, but you lose some time from the frame rate. And then the Sea of Eden here, we have to manipulate these Krakens so that they're not too close to us. And each time that these Krakens move, they're updating RNG. They're randomly moving enemies. So this part of the manipulation is still very tough, because every single time the Kraken moves like that, it is updating RNG, and if it gets aggroed onto you early, it can mess up the RNG.
A very, very difficult point.
Yeah, so this is Ness's Nightmare. There's a reason we needed Paula to be alive here, and that is because what we did is we had a prayer here to confuse everyone on the battlefield. That includes Ness's Nightmare and Ness and Paula. Ness bashes Paula so that Paula dies. This is to make sure that that Paula does not get any of the experience. And then what happens is that Ness's Nightmare uses an attack that uses a Glorious Light, which is the equivalent of Flash Gamma. And one of the things that Flash Gamma has a chance to do is instantly kill its target. So because he's confused, he targets himself with that attack, and he's not 100% resistant to Flash, he's only somewhat resistant to Flash. So we manipulate it so that the Flash hits him and triggers the instant kill. So in his own confusion, he targets himself and instant kills himself, and Ness gets all this experience alone. And it does not go to anyone else. 10% resistance? Yeah. And for Flash Gamma, it's a 2 in 8 chance, so 1 in 4 it's a 1 in 4 chance to instant kill using that attack. And manipulation technically does go past this point. Hypothetically, if Shel were to drop this manip, they would still be able to continue, because from what I understand, Shel will be doing a save in Cave of the Past before Gigas. So this Darko Net section that we're about to do, ideally it's still manipulated, we're still carrying manipulation, but if we were to drop it, we have PSI teleport now. And that would allow us to skip enemies should the need arise, if we had to. But that's only if we drop manipulation.
So I have short rest.
Right now, Ness is getting a bunch of free stats. When you kill Ness's Nightmare, Ness gets 200,000 free experience on top of the experience that you get from killing Nightmare. And then on top of that, Ness also just gets a bunch of free stats. Like, the game just hands him like 5 or like 15 of almost every single stat. They just give everything to Ness. So Ness is crazy right now. Ness is really the only character in the party who could theoretically even hope to survive Gigas. But if you recall, in order to get through the final boss fight, Paula needs to be alive and needs to get all 9 prayers off. And she is level 1, and she will stay level 1 until the end of the game. So we will be manipulating the final boss fight, as we have been doing for the majority of this run. After you beat Ness's Nightmare, the game automatically takes you to Saturn Valley, but technically the only way to get to Saturn Valley teleport is to walk through the entrance to Saturn Valley. So Shel is going to talk to Dr. Andonis here, which is a story trigger. We're going to try and get into the phase disorder. It's going to fail because we need the meteorite piece. And then Shel is going to walk to the entrance to Saturn Valley, walk in and out of the cave in order to get the teleport, because we have to come back here later. We're still attempting manipulation, and manipulation for this section here, specifically there's a small pixel frame window you can do.
Cockroach. Maybe long manipulation.
You drop my nip silently, yeah.
Oh.
It's a very, very tight window. Like you have it's like a 3-pixel window where you can teleport, and it updates RNG in a consistent way. So these enemies aren't supposed to be here normally, but like I said, we can use teleport to our advantage. Enemies do not move while you're teleporting. That was real spooky. And unfortunately, while you're teleporting, enemies still spawn. So the game kind of sprung these enemies on us. It was very surprising. Okay. We can still get through this fight. Paralysis Omega. With them both being paralyzed, it means you have an 100% chance to run. And both Ness and Pooh being paralyzed here isn't a big deal. The only thing is we need to go to Dr. Saturn before giving the meteorite piece, because you can't use items while you're paralyzed. Yeah, and teleporting past these enemies on Dark on Net is generally something you do in glitchless. Any percent we manipulate it, so it's not one of those things you get a lot of practice on. And obviously, one of the main things you want to avoid is accidentally completing the teleport. And then these spawn tiles here are 100%, unfortunately.
Okay.
But very nicely done. No, Octopuscal has every single world record for Earthbound and Mother 2 in existence. For every category. Octopuscal has the full sweep. Yeah, so we have to go to Dr. Saturn here first. In order to use the meteorite piece, because you shouldn't be able to, you can't use it.
We can't use in paralysis, so
yeah,
I must cancel paralysis.
So with paralysis cured, we can use the meteorite piece, which is what is required to advance the story, and then we have to stay at this hotel. Normally, we don't stay at Dr. Saturn before the phase disorder because we're gonna get a full heal from the Star Master here. But in this instance, because of paralysis, we had to do it. Oh, that's interesting. I did not know paralysis in GBA lets you still use items. That's actually crazy. So I'll say, for those who do have an affinity to flashing lights, where that would be potentially dangerous, I would say look away from the screen right now, because there will be some flashing that happens on the screen. For sure, Earthbound, one of the things it's not good at is the the sort of flashing lights warning that a lot of games nowadays would warn you about. But when the drilling stops, you're safe to go. Although it is a Switch version, so it might just be a little bit nerfed. Because I know the Switch version and stuff like that has some of the seizure changes to it. So if what I've been told is correct, Shel is going to be making a save here in Cave of the Past. And then we'll be manipulating our way to Gigas. And be carrying manipulation all the way through Gigas. One of the things that is required for any percent. Paula is level 1. And we need her to survive throughout the entirety of the fight. She cannot die at any point. Okay, so we reset the console here.
Okay.
And the manipulation here, not super... getting to Gigas is not the difficult part of the manipulation, but the Gigas part itself can be kind of tough. But we will be making sure there are no enemies here. There's a pretty good chance that we will be manipulating one enemy in particular that we will be seeing.
Oh, no! Okay.
Oop.
So I chose B button.
So an accident input there. This is a quick reset, thankfully.
No.
Ooh. So unfortunately, that window opening, it's not every single frame, but if the HP and Psychic Point window does show up, it starts advancing RNG very, still at a pretty rapid rate. Not every frame. It's like maybe twice every 60 frames, something like that. It might be a little bit more. But it's still an extra input that isn't supposed to happen.
So stop little time and change manipulation.
Like I said, it's a very quick reset at the very least. And then I believe there is one fight we're going to be manipulating here. And that is with a Bionic Kraken. And for those in the know, the Bionic Kraken is the enemy that actually drops the Gutsy Bat. The player's manual kind of notoriously says that the Krakens in CV nerds, but it is the Bionic Kraken here in Cave of the Past that does. And we manipulate it so that it has the Gutsy Bat and that we can get away fairly quickly. Ness has enough speed that we at least have a positive % chance to run, so there is manipulation that we can get to. And now we have to get to Gigas. It actually isn't as simple. Sometimes, if your movement isn't super precise walking through this room, your RNG can still be off coming into Gigas. And what we're going to be looking at here is we're going to be looking at a gut save here happening on Paula. This helps her survive the PSI rockin' that happens at the start of the fight. Gigas has 80 speed. There's no chance we can outspeed Gigas at any capacity. There's no manipulation that exists just because of the discrepancy between our speed and Gigas' speed. And the main way that we're going to survive this first phase of the fight is we're going to be praying with Paula. And Paula is going to be putting everybody to sleep. This includes Gigas and Pokey, but it manipulates it so that we're going to have, at the very least, Ness alive. And Ness will be our main damage dealer going through these first 2 phases of Gigas here. So for this first phase, you have to deal 2,000 damage to heavily armored Pokey. What Shel has done is equip the Gutsy Bat through the goods menu there. And Paula gets a gut save. Jeff dying, completely okay. The Gutsy Bat has a very, very high % chance to smash, which makes manipulating smashes with it very, very easy. Now everyone's asleep except for Ness. And we're going to be using that as much as possible. And all these smashes are manipulated so that we can get through this first phase of the fight. And now the second phase of the fight, Gigas has 2,000 HP as well. And Gigas has... this is a different enemy than the Gigas before, so Gigas is no longer asleep. But Gigas has a chance to not do anything during their turn. They have 4 attacks they can do. One of them is do nothing. The other one is a PSI, the equivalent of PSI Thunder Beta. There's one that's the equivalent of like PSI Freeze Beta on everybody. Actually, the Freeze Alpha, maybe something like that. It just does a good chunk of damage. It does freeze damage specifically, and then also a PSI Flash attack. But we'll be manipulating it so that Gigas doesn't do any of that, that we just crit through and get through this 2,000 damage as quickly as possible. And now, we'll be using the same concept here to get through the rest of the prayers. Paula has to pray 9 times total.
Okay, so time stop is last play. I chose last play. No. Paula move.
Paula getting the prey off.
Yes.
Yeah, the time stops when Paula starts her last prayer on the final 9th prayer. So this is prayer 1. We have these nice little cutscenes here. These cutscenes in particular are why we had to do all of those things in order to beat the game, because you may have noticed we were walking out of bounds. You could theoretically walk out of bounds to Gigas and start the fight, but the problem is that these prayers have not been set up by the game, so that when you get to this prayer, those NPCs aren't there, and the game doesn't really know what to do. It doesn't have the necessary things set up. So you have to go into the past via the phase disorder, which is what sets up the prayer sequences. And in order to go through the past, you have to beat Ness's nightmare. And in order to even get Dr. Saturn, to get Dr. Ann Donuts and Apple Kid into Saturn Valley, you need to fall down the Lumine Hall hole, which is why all of those story triggers are required. So I don't know if it's the same in Mother 2 as it is in Earthbound. There is one prayer that's usually kind of annoying. I don't know if Mother 2 with the faster text speed doesn't necessarily have the Frank prayer be as bad. But in Earthbound, there is one prayer that has 2 randomly moving NPCs on screen. And basically, depending on how fast your mashing is through these text boxes here, it's one text box really. RNG can be sometimes a little bit different after that turn. I'm not sure if it's the same in Mother 2. But that's the only real factor here in terms of potentially not being able to finish the run, because at this point, the manipulation is just to make sure that Gigas has an empty turn, which it's not very difficult to manipulate a turn like that with Gigas. You can generally get it pretty quickly. So this is the 5th prayer, I believe. Maybe a 6th prayer. No, this is the 5th prayer. Frank prayer is the 6th prayer. And the 7th prayer is your family.
I don't know this character.
So in Earthbound, it's this prayer that is usually the scariest part of the Gigas fight in terms of like RNG manipulation drop points. Those 2 randomly moving NPCs on screen are they're kind of a menace. But we can look at the damage value done here, 809, and then from there usually you can route.
No, I chose crack.
So now we're in RNG land.
Okay. No.
Oh no.
Sorry.
So then we have to redo the entire fight now. Like I said, a very unfortunate drop point. It's right there at the end of the fight. That was the 6th prayer. There was 3 more to go.
No.
Just want to let him know where.
Yeah. No. Okay. I reset. So.
Yeah, I think just at this point doing a regular reset just to get back to square one. RNG manipulation is very, very difficult. And these enemies particularly don't help. These enemies, if they spawn, they move RNG kind of at a rapid rate. Alright, once again, this Bionic Kraken's gonna have the Gutsy bat for us. We do have to start. We have to deal the 2,000 damage twice. Thankfully, with this this particular manipulation strat, it's very quick. Ness hits very, very hard. Gut Spat is quite a weapon.
Okay, next time. Oh no? What?
That beta is definitely not supposed to happen.
So yeah. Okay, me.
Alright, so let's be an alpha with a gut save here, Impala, which is what we want. Nice adaptation there. The reason I say adaptation is sometimes if you do a wrong input, you can still end up staying on the manipulation, just as long as you know how much RNG advances based on which cursor movements you do. So you can quick math on the fly, like try and like reroute manip, like live right in front of you. It's actually one of the things I had to do when I ran this at RPG Limburg 2019. You get so when you route enough, you just get so knowledgeable about what advances the RNG and stuff like that. That it's a great skill to have for these on the fly moments where you might need to fix something. And we manipulate the flash attack, killing Ness and Pooh here because they don't need to be alive for this section. So it's less cursor inputs if they're not alive. You only have to do 2 cursor inputs to pray, as opposed to needing to defend, pray, and then defend again. So once again, 9 prayers total. We're on the first one here. And we're still making good time. This is Mother 2, so they're not the Runaway 5, they're the Tunzura brothers.
Rama. Okay. Oh.
A59.
Yeah, A59 is very rare RNG.
Yeah, so
I surprised.
yeah, A15. So the reason we look at the damage values is because based on that prayer, because there's so much RNG, we look at the damage value to know which route we need to go in. There's just like a small divergence that might happen there. You route out whatever possible RNG damage numbers might show up, and then hope there's no duplicate because unfortunately
So,
we've had duplicates in the past.
maybe 859 is 1 frame or 2 frame.
Yeah, it basically comes
So,
down to how fast you can mash through the text box. There's like the frame perfect, or if you were within 2 frames or 3 frames, that'll change the damage value there. All right, the bit rate unfortunately cannot support Gigas no matter how high I set it to. So, apologies about the stream quality. This is the 8th prayer, and then when Paula begins her last prayer, that is when time happens.
okay, next time. Time must stop.
Time at 1:12:22. So still,
Okay, thank you.
Still underestimated. Thank you so much, Shel. A little, a lot of pressure, but still a fantastic run.
Yeah, thank you so. Gigi, thank you. But I use time rolling switch, so very sorry for everyone. And not. And I feel practice is luck.
Yeah, a lot of practice needs to be put into the category. It's just so much RNG manipulation and so precise. You have to try and hit it live in a marathon is always it's tough. It's very difficult. It was a great run, still.
I long manipulation, so rare case. Very no, and today's long RNG, so and I have first time long, so many case.
Okay, well, I think we should move along and move forward. So once again, thank you so much to. But I'll let the static down before I do actuals. Okay, so thank you so much to Shel.
Thank you.
We're going to be moving on to Mother 1 Any Percent to be run by Chikubi. But great stuff there. And so just give us a little bit of setup time. We're going to be moving forward. And Please, everyone, once again, say GG to Shel.
Thank you, commentator Daniel and ZT. So I looking forward to